Hi, I'm Victor Margiotta, and this is the Community Show. We are in beautiful Peekskill, New York. I'm with Joe Squillante. We are going to do a wonderful show. Talk about community. Some people might call it networking, but my friend Dana Heisel introduced me to Joe, and it turns out I know Joe from the Paradise Restaurant, Verplank, that he comes in to eat on Sundays once in a while, and has to come a little more often now.
Yes.
But so Joe, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Victor, for having me.
This is
a
an
privilege.
honor, yes,
Yeah.
and a privilege. And 50 years of photographing the Hudson.
Yes, this year. Yes, started in 1975.
I can't believe it.
Yeah,
That's
and it's been a
amazing.
labor of love. Yeah. People have said to me, Joe, how do you do it for so long? I love photography and I love the river as much as I always did.
I love the river. I've
Yeah.
lived here my whole life and lived right on the river. I mean, my parents were very strict, and for good reason,
Stay
you know.
away.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to have a mini bike, or we weren't allowed down by the river too much
Sure.
unless supervised, because it can be
Yeah,
dangerous.
absolutely, sure.
And the currents, but the history and what the Hudson River is just amazing.
Yes, and it keeps giving. It keeps giving to all of us, and that speaks to what I call river life. And river life is how water affects we human beings. Some of us are aware of it, like yourself and myself, who come close to the river a lot. But there are those people that could be riding down on the train in the morning and they're looking at their phone and the Palisades are blazing in their glory.
Yeah.
But because they're close to the river, they still experience the effect of water and river life.
Tell us about Thomas Cole and how you were inspired by him.
Well, Thomas Cole, being the father of the Hudson River School of Painters, was an influence on me because I studied him along with many of the other Hudson River School painters, like Frederick Church, who was his student, and Jasper Cropsey, Asher Durand, and just so many others. There was something about their work that spoke to me, and what I think it really was the romantic quality that it gave to me. And I have to say, and I say it from time to time, I'm a incurable romantic.
That's
you know,
beautiful.
I just feel it in my bones, and that's how I create my work and how I talk about my work. And that is that I don't come from my head, I come from my heart. And that's really the truth about it, and it's really something that I love. And the Hudson River School of Painters, you know, showed me the way. I was, of course, photographing the river for many years before I, you know, began to study Thomas Cole. But that's perhaps why I really connected, because I had the firsthand experience of photographing the river. And then when I saw what these guys were doing, they were doing it with paint. In fact, a woman who was the head curator at the New York Historical Society, she said it. She said to me, Joe, you do the same thing as the painters do, but you use photography. And it's really all about the love of the river, but even in terms of environment, I call them the first environmentalists, because they were very concerned about the railroad coming
Very
in.
concerned,
They were
yes.
concerned about industry. They were concerned about trees being chopped down. And that's part of what I do in my work, too, is, you know, try to advocate to protect our natural world.
That's awesome. You know, and you're involved with the Clearwater.
Clearwater, Riverkeeper, and Scenic Hudson. I've been close to them all through the years. And most especially, I have to say, Riverkeeper. I've done a lot of work with them.
Yes.
In fact, Tracy Brown, who is the president of Riverkeeper, and Ned Sullivan, the president of Scenic Hudson, both came to my opening at the Hudson River Museum for my Lens on the Hudson exhibit that opened in May. And I was just so moved by the fact that they came and they, you know, stood with me. And Tracy Brown said, you know, because I had other photographs of who I call the champions on the river. She said, Joe, can you take my picture? Because I didn't have one of her represented. I didn't have a strong enough one. So Tracy and I are going to be going out in a couple of weeks on the river
Yes.
to make a photograph of her. So There's so many things that I have done through the years. I see that the work advocates in terms of the environment. But if I might say, when I did this exhibit, Lens on the Hudson, Laura Vukels, who's the head curator at the Hudson River Museum, she said, and this is a quote, she said, "Joe, we don't want to show you beautiful landscapes because we feel they've been exhibited widely. We want to do environmental awareness and conservation."
Awesome.
So I said to myself, oh my God, because, I said, I've done a lot of that work, but I didn't exhibit it. So that meant I had to dig deep into my archive of 50 years and start showing these environmental pieces to Laura, and went back and forth. But I realized very quickly, I said, Laura, we have to show the beauty on the river to contrast with the challenges. And she understood that. And because I had to challenge myself and do something different with environmental photography, I realized that because of that show, I was very passively involved in showing my work on the river. Because whatever I felt I loved to shoot, I shot. But now, because of this show, kind of woke me up in a new way.
Yeah.
Now I see that I have to put my photographs to work to protect the river actively.
And saving the eagles is a big thing.
Well, I had the privilege of photographing Pete Nye, who was the man that's responsible for bringing the bald eagle back to New York State.
God. And I've seen so many this year, the most I've ever seen,
Well,
and they're beautiful.
In 1975, there were no nesting pairs of bald eagles in New York State. Now there are over 400. And thanks to the work that Pete Nye and his associates did, and I had the privilege of documenting their work in 2000, where they would trap and test, band, put transmitters on the backs of these birds before they released them, follow them where they traveled, where they migrated and ate and nested. And I have photographs. One of my, really stronger images is of Craig Thompson, who was a wildlife biologist, cradling a bald eagle in his arms. And I call that my Madonna and Child.
Nice. And it's funny, there was just another bear down in the area. And, we have to watch out. The coyotes, the bears, plenty of deer.
Oh, yeah.
And my friend the woodchucks, who like to go in my garden.
Oh, sure.
But, I try to be nice to them. I take them down the road. And
Well, that's a good thing. Yeah.
I don't...
No,
I tried killing it and I couldn't do it.
no. The animals are as important as we are.
Yes, our whole system, the whole system has to be functioning in order
That's right.
for it to work
It's
correctly.
a balance in nature, and we're just part of nature.
That's right.
I don't see ourselves as supreme. And I think that's part why we get in trouble, because we try to dominate instead of complement.
Definitely. And like you said, God is the greatest artist that we have.
That's for sure.
And
Yeah.
everything that, we could learn about ourselves and about the environment and about nature. Now we're going into fall. Today is October 9th, 2025. You just celebrated your birthday.
Yes, I did.
And a few milestones. You had a show recently. Talk about that.
Well, the show that you're speaking of is the one at the Hudson River Museum called Lens on the Hudson.
Okay.
And it opened in May, and it's extended to January 4th.
All right.
It was due to close in October 19th, but it's been so well received. So many people are coming and asking. They come to the desk, where's the photography show? I want to see the Hudson River pictures. And, so it's working for the museum very, very well. And so that's really been a privilege. And because of that show has really been a magnet for my work this year. And so many wonderful things have come out of that. And most recently, our local county legislator, Colin Smith from
Hello,
Peekskill,
Colin.
he came last Friday at my invitation. And he met with me and with the CEO, Masha Trochinsky, Laura Vukels, the curator, and a couple of other folks. And they were very happy that I invited him, because the museum receives funding from the county. So I brought Colin through my exhibit, and then we viewed the rest of the museum. And then I was so surprised and so taken aback that he gave me a proclamation.
Oh my gosh.
So October 16th, which is would have been my mother's 103rd birthday, Victoria Squillante, is going to be Joseph Squillante Day in Westchester
my
County.
God.
I just
That's amazing.
aghast. It's like phenomenal.
So all your work paid off.
It's paying off. Yes, it is paying off. And what I say to your viewers is that whatever it is you believe in, you have to stay with it.
That's right.
You have to stay consistent and treat yourself really well. Pat yourself on the back from time to time and say, what I do is really good, and just keep going.
Yeah.
And the beauty of what I do, I can speak personally, is that I give my love of the Hudson River and my love of photography out. And the more you give, the more you get back.
It's true. Now you have your own school. You teach photography.
Well, it's not a brick and mortar school. It's a concept, like the Hudson River School was a concept
Yes,
for
of the
painters.
artists, yeah.
Mine is the Hudson River School of Photography. So through that school, I teach. I do what I call a walk shop. A walk shop is a registered trade name of mine. And it's very simply about walking along the river in different locations, up and down, and teaching photography. So I use the Hudson River as subject while I teach photography. And I have note cards that I publish and prints that are exhibited in various galleries and museums, quite a few museums of late, to keep spreading the word. So the idea of the Hudson River School of Photography is really to raise awareness of the beauty of the river through photography.
Yes.
In fact, that's how I encapsulate my mission. And as I say, to really convey the beauty of the river through the photograph. And I see it works, because I've had shows and I see people come up to me and they say, Joe, I had no idea the river was so beautiful. That's my mission accomplished.
Yeah, for sure. Now a lot of your work is in black and white. Tell us about that.
Well, a lot of it is done really when I began, because I spent 35 years in my darkroom. So
my
I
gosh.
developed film.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm older than I look. It was part of a partially practical, but because I used to buy 100-foot rolls of black and white film. I used to roll them into canisters, and I developed it myself. So naturally, the cost of making prints was much, much lower than having to send them out to a store or some other place to have processed. So that was part of it. But also, when I started back in the 70s, I actually started taking pictures in 1972, color photography and color prints particularly were not stable. So what I mean is, why would somebody buy a fine art color print for their home, and then in 10 years, the colors are going to fade?
Yeah.
So that was another reason why I stayed away from color. And, people will say, well, why did you shoot black and white? Another reason is that, I feel that color is to be used when the subject is screaming color.
Yeah.
When it must be color.
Like this time of the year.
That's right. I did a photograph of the Autumn Palisades, and they're just blazing in their glory, the trees. Right. And you have to shoot that in color. And then there's a place in the Adirondacks, a beautiful rock formation about 100 feet above. It's called the Blue Ledges. And these are million-year-old rocks with erosion that's absolutely blue. You have to shoot that in color. And another important point I want to make, and I like to teach photography whenever I can, I say that the color in a photograph is what I call a facade that you have to push through to see all the other elements, the design, the shape, the composition, and such. So, that's why I stay with black and white. It's like if you imagine when you're looking at the beautiful old black and white movies, how they pull you in. Because of you see all of these other elements besides color. Yeah.
So what is the most interesting thing you've learned about the Hudson River? Is it where it starts in the Adirondacks? Is it how it comes down? Is it the width? Is it the fact that it's down in the city, it's salt water and fresh water?
That's a big thing. And then Oyster Bay used to have half of the world's oysters were in Oyster Bay.
Well, that question, Victor, is kind of like asking me, what's your favorite picture?
I know.
And, you know, the river, because it's an estuary for 150 miles, it only rises a foot in that whole distance, has its own unique, distinct look and feel. And of course, the wildlife that lives in that section of the river is vastly different than the wildlife where there's white water up above the Troy Dam and Albany. You know, the river has those different complexions. And so, I mean, I love being in the mountains. I love being in the woods. You know, down here, there's the Highlands, which we have right here in Peekskill, is one of my favorite spots. This spot here in Peekskill, where we have the gateway to the Highlands, and Bear Mountain and Manitou, and, you know, the few hills that we have that you go around the bend to West Point and the Bear Mountain Bridge, that, as I say, is one of the three most beautiful vistas on the whole river. The other two are in Tivoli, where it all started for me, because at that point, the Catskill Mountains come the furthest east, and they loom up over the river. It's Overlook Mountain there, across from Woodstock. And the other spot is the top of Mount Marcy, and where Lake Tier of the Cloud starts, about 1,000 feet from the summit. And I'm always happy to say that the Hudson River starts on the highest mountain in New York State.
That's
How
amazing.
appropriate.
Yes.
You know, and then of course there's all the life beyond the wildlife, the people and what they do on the river, how they make their livelihoods, how they recreate on the river. It could be something as simple as rollerblading on an old pier, you little kids, you know, playing, or jumping in the water at Mount St. Alphonsus in the Sopus. I was up there one day, and I felt like I was 5 years old again, because there were kids, girls and boys, jumping in and out of the river, giggling and laughing, splashing each other. You know, in spite of what the river is in terms of cleanliness, they didn't care. You know, they were having a lot of fun.
Sure.
So there's so many complexions to the river. There's the last of the shad fishermen that I documented. One story I love to tell is about the pilots, the Hudson River pilots, supposedly the oldest trade in the country. And they are a group of people who, when freighters come from all over the world, tankers, they are boarded by a Hudson River pilot down near Yonkers, and then another one up in Norrie Point. So what happens is they get on this freighter, and the Hudson River pilot takes over and navigates it up the river, because somebody from, you know, Turkey is not going to be able to know the river.
Right.
So, and then I had the privilege of being out, and we left Norrie Point at 4 o'clock in the morning one night on a pilot boat. And the pilot boat, the guy that's driving the boat, myself, my wife Carol Capobianco, and the fresh pilot goes out to meet this Turkish freighter. And this pilot boat pushes along the side of the freighter. Wow. They drop a rope ladder down, and the new pilot, the fresh one, climbs up, and they compare notes together, the two pilots. Yep. The other pilot who came down from Yonkers comes down, and then we take off, and the freighter continues up the river.
That's amazing.
Who would ever think that these things are going on on the Hudson? That there's so much life going on that's rich and culturally rich, and I mean, business-wise, and you know, on and on. It's really a lush environment.
I miss the seaplanes, when the seaplanes used to come and land in the Hudson. And remember those, the propeller? There was a seaplane base right in Verplank.
Well, see, you grew up along the river. I didn't. I grew up in the Bronx, so I was away from the river until the way I tell the story is the river came to me. I didn't one day decide to go and photograph the Palisades in Yonkers. My friend bought a house in Tivoli. Wow. Right on the river.
Oh my gosh.
And in between tearing down walls and painting the roof, I'd go down to his backyard, and this photograph here of the boy fishing is done in the back of my friend Tom Scarano's house.
That's amazing.
So that's how the river came to me.
Yeah.
And when I saw the power of these pictures I was getting right away, when I was developing them in the darkroom, I said, this is a powerful subject.
Yeah.
And I thank God that I realized it. And that's when I kept going. That kept me going.
Yeah, and it's a gift. It really is.
It's, I mean, somehow or other, I realized, you know, every now and then in this life you have a realization, like a flash says, this is what you have to do, what you must do.
Yeah.
And I grabbed it and I held on to it.
So you grew up in the Bronx. Where?
I grew up in the Wakefield section of the Bronx, which is the northeast section close to Mount Vernon. And it was not an urban setting at all, because the block that I grew up on, Boyd Avenue, had private houses, semi-attached houses, and big, gigantic trees all over the street. In fact, when I was a little boy, I used to, in the summertime, I used to climb my tree and hang out on the limb over the street, put my arms like this, and just love being there. I guess maybe that was my first real contact with nature, was that tree.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I'm so privileged and blessed that I still have friends that I grew up with 70 years ago that we get together every month. We meet at a diner in Connecticut because it's a central spot.
Yep.
And we don't even have to say a word to each other. Just being together
I
is
hear
enough.
you. I have my best friend, Patrick Cawthorn, who I went to St. Patrick's with first
Okay.
grade.
Yeah.
We're still best friends. We play golf together. And,
Yeah. So you know what it is. I mean, the way I say it, it strengthens the foundation of my whole life, having a
Right.
friendship like that.
Yeah, you don't need a psychiatrist. You got a friend.
Very good.
So a lot of these shows, you got to carry all this artwork and set up. Do you have help?
Well, you know, some of the shows I have to do it myself.
Okay.
Some of them I don't. You know, I did, most recently I've been exhibiting at museums. And I had a show two years ago, 22 and 23, at the New York State Museum.
Wow.
Show at the New York Historical Society in Manhattan in 2019. It was called Hudson Rising. And then the Albany Institute of History and Art did a show of my work in the year 2009, which was the quadricentennial of Henry Hudson's sail. And this year with the Hudson River Museum show, when you work with the museums, you give them the material and they'll
Set it up.
They'll set it up. Sometimes, you know, you give some in frames, some you give matted, some just the prints, whatever it takes to put the show together well. If I have pictures that are framed and ready to go, obviously I'm going to give them the whole, you know, setup. And they do that. But a lot of the gallery shows that I've done through the years, sure, I have to put that together myself.
Sure.
Frame it, mat it, you know, print it.
That's a whole industry, framing pictures. How,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I do that too. I have a mat cutter and I cut
Right.
the mats and
Yep.
polish the glass. And I don't make the frames. You know,
No.
I buy the frames, the size. But I've done all of these things through the years, and a lot of it
amazing.
is really to cut costs any way I could.
yes, of course.
Yeah. Now, on the other hand, with something like, if I might mention, the Abbey Inn.
Yes.
The Abbey Inn it was a St. Mary's Chapel. St. Mary's Chapel in Peekskill, up on the
It's
bald
beautiful.
rock there.
You go up there, you feel like you're in a different world.
Yeah, it's
amazing.
really, well, it's a very spiritual place.
It is.
Very magical place. And in a situation like that, Martin Ginsburg purchased the property, and in 2020 he opened it. And but he called me. He said, "Joe, I want to tell the Hudson River story, and you have the story." So he purchased 46 of my Hudson River photographs that run through all 3 floors of the inn.
That's
And I want to tell your viewers that if you want to, please go there and don't hesitate to go to the front desk and tell them Joe sent you.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because, and you want to go up on the 3rd floor first, take the elevator up
There you
and
go.
start in the Adirondacks and come all the way down to Manhattan with a night view from the top of the World Trade Center that they did in 1985. So you're looking up the island of Manhattan. And in that case, I made the prints and they matted and framed them
Oh, good.
and, you know, completed, hung them, installed them.
Did
You know,
it the
they
way
have
they wanted
specialists
it, which
that
was
do
nice.
that.
And were you happy
the way it
They
came out?
spared no expense whatsoever, and I have to compliment Mr. Ginsburg. In fact, Martin said to me in one of the two meetings we had, he said to me, come up to me very quietly, he said, Joe, you know you're going to have your own museum here. And he was so right. I mean, all of them have what they call museum glass. There's absolutely no reflectance to it, and that's very expensive.
Yeah.
8-ply mats, very expensive. Gorgeous wooden frames. I mean, he was right. It's they're museum quality. Wow. So I really implore everybody, all your viewers, really to go to the
check it
Abbey
out.
and
Yeah.
ask if you can go up. It's a public space, really, and just go up and have a look and walk through.
Talk more about this picture. It's amazing. It's so simple, but it's beautiful.
Thank you, Victor. This is very simply called Boy Fishing, and it has a story like all the pictures have a story. This is a little bit longer in time.
All right, we got 2 minutes.
Oh,
so-
all right. Well, it was shot in '76.
Okay.
Okay, and let's see. So in 1995, I asked the boy if I could take his picture. He could care less. You know, he wanted to watch the end of the pole to see if a fish would hit. He said his father couldn't bring any of the fish home because of the pollution. But in 1995, I had a show at the Tivoli Town Hall. And thank goodness I was standing in the right place when 2 women walked in. And they said, hey, what's Alan Kuhn's picture doing on the wall? Because they knew him.
Holy cow.
So thank God I was there. And 3 years later, John Cronin wanted to use it for an ad against the General Electric Company. I said we can't because I don't have a release. But I remembered Alan Kuhn, called up, got to him. He's living in Germantown. He signed the release for me. So
That
they
worked
used it
out.
for the advertisement. And but this, but this is an example of the power of the river.
Right. How can I buy one of your pictures?
That's a good question. The best way to do it is go to HudsonRiverPhotography.com.
Okay.
And that way you can, contact me. There's an info at Hudson River Photography, actually info at josephsquillante.com in there. But you can go either to josephsquillante.com or HudsonRiverPhotography.com. It goes to the same place. And then, we go from there, depending on what you'd like or how, what kind of picture, how big you want it to be.
Yeah.
And also, I want folks to know that I also offer lectures along the river. I've done quite a number of them, most recently for the Garden Club of Peekskill at the
Yes,
Peekskill
that's
Yacht
right.
Club.
I tried to get down there.
It was very well attended, and people really like to hear all the stories.
I know.
So,
it is.
And I love to tell the stories. So.
That's great. Joe, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Victor.
We might have to do a part 2, so
Well,
I'll
I
be
would
in
love
touch.
that. Yeah,
All
so
right.
you can tell there's many things to discuss.
And I'm so glad that you were here in Peekskill and promoting the Hudson River and the environment and nature and all the beautiful things that God gives us.
Yes, that's right. And we have to be thankful for it and protect it like it's our own child.
And be aware.
Always be aware.
Thank you for opening people's eyes.
Yes, well,
So,
thank you, Victor.
thanks. This is the Community Show. Thanks for watching. Thanks, James Brooks, for all the work you do, and Joe Pisano. And Dana Heisel, the director of the Peekskill Library. Come down and see her. She'll find you a book or anything you might need that they provide here. Thanks for watching.